I was on a regional train in southern Germany in winter, the kind where the windows fog just enough to smear the pine forest and gray sky into one long watercolor. Across from me was a guy in a hoodie that said Cleveland World Tour, legs spread, white sneakers planted like he owned Deutsche Bahn. He just learned the train was running 5 minutes late. He shook his head and delivered, "Back home, our trains are way more on time. Europe's supposed to be advanced, right?" The German guy next to him calmly went through operators, track work, winter delays, like he was reading from a manual. At my age, you stop arguing with anyone who thinks Cleveland sets the global benchmark for punctuality. A buddy of mine manages a bar in Edinburgh, just off the Royal Mile. Low ceiling, sticky floor, whiskey bottles staring at you like judges. One night, this American finance bro walks in, hair in a perfect Wall Street part, Patagonia vest, making him look freshly defrosted from a quarterly earnings call. He opens the menu, sees the prices in pounds, and sighs like someone stole his dividend. Then he goes, "Can you just convert this to dollars and round it down? That's what I'm used to." My friend very gently explains that Scotland does not peg whiskey to the New York Stock Exchange. In the man's head, the global reserve currency appears to be whatever makes my bar tab hurt less. I was in Rome, leaning against a rare patch of shade near the Colosseum, trying not to boil alive in August. A Midwestern dad in cargo shorts and a brand new gladiator helmet was lecturing his teenage son while jabbing a tour brochure at some fenced-off ruins. Half-fallen columns, a bit of grass, the usual. Dad squinted and declared, "If they fixed all this up with some sponsorships and proper seating, this could be a great concert venue." The guide quietly mentioned 2,000 years of history, archaeology rules, UNESCO, all the adult homework no one wants. You gain a new respect for Italian guides who can listen to just ad sponsors without calling for the lions. A friend of mine works at a tiny cafe in Paris near the Luxembourg Gardens. Tiny tables, tiny coffees, very big opinions. One afternoon, a loud American couple came in, matching Paris 2025 hoodies, sunglasses still on indoors, like paparazzi were hiding in the pastry case. They glared at the menu, all in French, as if it were a personal attack. The guy finally leaned over the counter and said, "Can you put this in American on an iPad or something? It's more efficient." My friend answered in perfect English and walked them through café versus café crème. Watching someone demand global efficiency in a place where one cup of coffee can take 2 hours feels like performance art. I was in Copenhagen in early spring, that damp chill where your fingers never quite forgive you, watching bikes glide past like a Nordic school of synchronized fish. At the corner, an American tech bro in a branded hoodie and noise-canceling headphones was renting a city e-bike, frowning at perfectly polite traffic. Then he turned to his girlfriend and announced, "They should just switch to proper right-side driving like us. This left stuff is confusing." A Danish guy next to him, flawless English, gently informed him that Denmark already drives on the right, and has for a very long time. You haven't lived until you've seen a man gaslight an entire country's road system because his personal GPS runs on Uber logic. A cousin of mine guides tours in Athens, mostly around the Acropolis. Sun beating down, marble glowing like it's hooked up to a power source. One day he had a group with a woman in a floppy hat, designer sandals, and a t-shirt that read, "History, May." She stared at the Parthenon, scaffolding on one side, cranes moving slowly. She shielded her eyes and said, "Why don't they just rebuild it properly like Vegas did and charge more?" He explained very patiently about original stones, archaeology ethics, restoration versus reconstruction. You could see the exact second she realized Greece had no intention of turning 3,000 years of history into a high-end lobby. I was in Amsterdam in November. Light drizzle, canals doing their moody photography thing, and I ducked into a brown cafe for warmth. At the bar was a guy in a baseball cap with an American flag, already 2 beers in, waving a credit card like a sheriff's badge. The bill came in euros on a little slip. He tapped the counter and said, "Just run it in dollars, I hate doing foreign math." The bartender calmly explained that converting it would likely cost him more, and that the euro, exists. Some men travel 5,000 miles just to pick a fight with arithmetic. A friend in Sydney drives an airport shuttle, the kind that carries confused tourists and overstuffed luggage. Middle of January, blazing sun, 35 degrees Celsius, air shimmering. He picked up an American family dressed like they were heading to a New England holiday card shoot, sweaters, jeans, and a slow melt happening in real time. The dad kept checking his weather app before blurting, "Your phone settings must be wrong, it's winter in January." My friend, in that relaxed Australian tone, explained seasons flip in the southern hemisphere. You'd be surprised how many people will trust a setting on their phone over the giant burning star above them. I was in Vienna in December. Christmas market lights everywhere. The air full of roasted chestnuts and hot wine decisions. Next to me at a stall was an American retiree in a puffy jacket, holding a mug of Glühwein like it might bite him. He kept poking at euro coins like they were puzzle pieces. Then he asked, "Can I just pay in US dollars? They're worth more anyway." The vendor smiled politely and explained that here, euros are worth exactly what the sign says. Travel humbles you, but only after the exchange rate gets the floor. Another friend of mine works as a ranger near the Great Barrier Reef, spending his days telling tourists not to poke things with stingers. One day he had a gym-hardened American guy, tank top, reflective sunglasses, asking about sharks and jellyfish like he was prepping for a courtroom cross-exam. They went over safety rules, reef zones, stinger suits. The guy nodded and said, "Can you just clear out the dangerous wildlife section so it's more family-friendly?" The ranger calmly explained that nature doesn't come with a customer service department, and Australia isn't a curated aquarium. You could see the moment he realized the ocean had not read his itinerary. I was in Lisbon, leaning against a railing in Belém, watching the Tagus slide toward the Atlantic. A young American couple in matching sneakers and identical backpacks were studying the Geronimos Monastery like it was a half-finished outlet mall. The guy pointed at chipped carvings and weathered stone. He frowned and said, "Why don't they pressure wash this stuff? It would look brand new." Their guide gently stepped through erosion, preservation, and 5 centuries of history baked into the walls. Some people come to Europe for history and leave disappointed it isn't freshly painted. A bartender I know in Dublin works at a quiet pub, where the loudest noise is the football commentary. One afternoon, a lone American businessman walked in. Full suit, Bluetooth earpiece blinking like it had its own heartbeat. He ordered a Guinness, then grew visibly impatient as it was poured in stages. He finally leaned over and said, "Can you speed that up? Time is money where I'm from." The bartender smiled and told him, "Guinness takes the time it takes, and the clock doesn't get a vote." Watching a man negotiate with gravity and nitrogen because his calendar is packed is its own entertainment. I was on a ferry in Norway, gliding past cliffs and water so perfect it looked photoshopped by someone with restraint. A middle-aged American woman in a bright pink raincoat was firing off photos like her phone was overheating. She stared at a waterfall crashing down a mountainside, no railings, no platform, just raw nature. Then she turned to her friend and said, "They should build a Starbucks right there. People would pay a fortune." A Norwegian guy nearby, perfect English, explained that the point of the fjord was that nothing was there. Some landscapes are sacred, others are just missed opportunities for franchise expansion, depending on who you ask. A friend in Prague works the front desk of a small hotel off Old Town Square, Creaky stairs, real keys, all charm. An American guy in a baseball jersey came to check out, tossing his key onto the counter like he was returning a rental. He pointed at the receipt showing crowns and euros. Then he said, "Can you price match this to what I'd pay back home for the same room?" My friend calmly explained that life does not honor competitor coupons across borders. Perspective really is everything, especially when someone thinks Expedia governs international law. I was in Stockholm in late summer, standing on a clean, quiet metro platform where you can hear your own thoughts, whether you want to or not. An American college kid with a giant backpack paced near the edge, glancing at signs for Tista Vagnar, the quiet carriages. He looked genuinely offended by the whispering. He waved his hand and said, "They should put on some music or ads. This silence is bad for business." A Swedish woman, soft voice, calmly explained that the silence was the point. Eventually you realize not every country is waiting for your marketing department to fix its ambiance.